Good. Okay. Erev Tov. Okay, so coming up to Yom Kippur, let's spend a few minutes talking about, we always have time to talk about Yom Kippur. We don't always have time to talk about Erev Yom Kippur. So let's talk about some of the mitzvot that we have. Erev Yom Kippur is everybody's favorite day, everybody's favorite mitzvah, because it's the one day a year. Believe it or not, there is only one day a year. There is a mitzvah to eat. So it's very interesting the way that this is phrased, right? The Torah tells us, "V'initem et nafshotechem." Pasuk says, "You will afflict yourselves," right? The 5 inuyim that we have on Yom Kippur. But as we all know, Yom Kippur is on the 10th of Tishrei, and the pasuk says, "B'tish'ah me'erev ad erev," right? It says on the 9th. So one thing that we learn from that pasuk is that we have an idea of Tosefet Yom Kippurim. That there is that we add on, right? We have truth. We have by every Shabbat and Yom Tov in practical terms. We add on at the beginning and at the end as well. But it's learned out from Yom Kippur that we have a Tosefet, we add on Mechol Al HaKodesh, and we extend the Kedusha of that day beyond. So it actually begins on the 9th, before we turn part of the 9th into the 10th. But the other thing which Chazal learned from that Pasuk, this is the Gemara in Yoma, right? So it says, Pasuk says, "Initem et nafshotechem b'tish'ah, v'chim b'tish'ah mitanim." It says, really, is that correct? Do we fast on the 9th? V'alo be'asor mitanin. We fast on the 10th. אלא לומר לך, כל האוכל ושותה בתשיעי, מעלה עליו הכתוב כאילו התנה תשיעי ועשירו. That anybody who eats and drinks on the 9th of Tishrei, on Erev Yom Kippur, it is as if one has fasted both the 9th and the 10th. It's a very, very interesting phraseology, and it's a bit of a strange one, because what do you mean as if we fasted on the 9th and the 10th? We don't have a mitzvah to fast on the 9th. We only have a mitzvah to fast on the 10th. So they argue Sa'ot, and there are Rishonim who write it a little bit differently, and they say what it means to say anybody who eats and drinks on the 9th, it is as if they were commanded to fast on the 9th and 10th and fulfilled both. That is how that's essentially that's what we mean. But just as we have the mitzvah to eat, not to eat on Yom Kippur, we have the mitzvah to eat on Erev Yom Kippur. And one of the things the poskim discuss is, why is there no bracha on this mitzvah? Right, there is a bracha on the food that you're going to eat. Right, it's not a good idea on Erev Yom Kippur go around and eat without any brachot. That is not a good idea. I'm not recommending that. But just like on Pesach, for example, we have a bracha of al achilat matzah and we have a bracha of al achilat maror. Why don't we have a bracha on Erev Yom Kippur before you start eating your sudam afseket, or you say al achilah be'erev Yom Kippur? There is no such bracha. We've not found that anyway. So different reasons are suggested by the poskim. One of the reasons it's brought, and we find this by many of the mitzvot, ben adam l'chavero, or many of the mitzvot relating to chesed, kibbur ba'em, things like that, is that any time when there is a mitzvah, which is a spontaneous act, which you may well have done anyway, so we don't have a bracha for that. So a person would have eaten on Erev Yom Kippur, maybe not as much, maybe you wouldn't stuff your face the way that you do now, but okay. But the fact is, you would eat anyway, and you would, therefore, there is no bracha specifically for that. As I say, there is most certainly a bracha on the food. But that just goes to show that Torah wanted to give us schar, in a sense. You know, we say this all the time. But just as fasting on Yom Kippur itself is something that's difficult to do, something which is relatively easy to do, which is eating the day before, for that we get schar as well. So there are a number of different reasons that are brought as to why should there be a mitzvah. Rashi says, essentially, that the reason there's a mitzvah to eat on Erev Yom Kippur is so that you'll have strength for the fast, that you'll be able to fast adequately. So there's the idea here of hachana, the idea of preparation, the idea that we're not trying to make it more unnecessarily difficult than it needs to be. You know, it used to be, everybody always used to wish each other, Tzom kal, have an easy fast. And nowadays, lots of people don't like to do that. They say, Tzom mo'ir. You should have a meaningful fast. It can be easy and meaningful. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you hear people say, no, we don't want it to be too easy. You have to feel it. No, there's no such thing. The Rashi says the reason why we have the mitzvah to eat Erev Yom Kippur is to make it easier. Okay. Rabbeinu Yonah in the Sharei Tshuva actually gives three separate reasons why we have this mitzvah to eat. The third one, he says, is more or less the same as Rashi, i.e. it's a preparation for the fast. But he also gives two reasons with a slightly different nuance, that it's to do with the simcha that we should feel coming into Yom Kippur. He talks about the fact that we eat to celebrate. Yom Kippur is the Yom Tov. Right? Normally you have a Yom Tov meal. Obviously you can't have a meal on Yom Kippur, but the Yom Tov meal of Yom Kippur, so to speak, is on Erev Yom Kippur. And then the poskim discuss there are a lot of nafkaminot potentially which could come out between these two approaches. If we say the reason for the mitzvah is to eat so that you'll be able to fast, or we say the reason for the mitzvah is to eat because it's a Yom Tov, because we're happy that we're going to be forgiven, etc. I'll just mention two now and we'll discuss some more tomorrow. One of them is when you have to eat. If it's all about preparing for the fast, so essentially it's the Sudam of second. But what if you eat the night before, or what if you eat in the morning? If we say that the reason is not to prepare yourself for the fast, not exclusively to prepare yourself for the fast, maybe you should make sure to have an extra meal that is not the Sudam of second in order to fulfill the mitzvah as well. So that is one nafkamina. Another nafkamina which comes up, which all the poskim discuss, what about somebody who's not fasting? Right, somebody who is ill, somebody who's a pregnant woman in whatever situation. Not all pregnant women would be exempt from fasting, but right, so somebody who is exempt from the fast for whatever reason. If the mitzvah of eating is only connected to the preparation for the fast, well, you're not fasting. There's no mitzvah. But if we say it's something more, then even then you would still have a mitzvah to eat as well. Okay, more to talk about, but that is it for today. Rabbi Kenigsberg Mincha Maariv Shiur Oct.